A very good morning to all our viewers. I'm Shivani Srivastav, Relationships Manager at Global Education and Training Institute. I welcome you all this morning to this very special GETI Talks with Ma'am Pratima Gupta, who is the Assistant Director of the Sunbeam Schools. She has come from an army background and which makes her so disciplined and very well organized. She has done her master's in social works and has been into the field of education for 22 years. She has been an assistant director for last 20 years. She aims to have a healthy social behavior. She has also received Iconic Woman of the Year Award 2020. Today we have Ma'am here with us, and she will be addressing us all and speaking on fostering gender sensitivity through education. Here, I once again welcome Ma'am, and I hand over the virtual platform to Ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Shivani, for this warm and generous introduction. And it is always a pleasure to talk on my favorite topic, and that is, of course, regarding sensitivity and how we can foster, inculcate, develop gender sensitivity through schooling and through the very early childhood years of schooling. Now, but we really need to ponder upon that in an extremely developed world, sitting here in the year 2020, when all about us, the fruits of development are shining bright, and it seems that the world is an educated, a civilized, and an extremely focused kind of an environment to nurture human beings. Why is it that you and I are still sitting and talking and pondering upon the issues of gender sensitivity, especially when today on this forum I represent women, and Shivani also is equally a strong representative of educated, literate, modern, self-employed, employed women who choose to have careers as an option and who are very comfortable and confident in their own workspaces. And there are countless people such as Shivani and myself all across the globe and in our very own country. Then why is it that I choose gender sensitivity as a topic to address on this forum? Before I begin, I would want to place on record my thanks, of course, to GETI, the Global Education and Training Institute, for reaching out to me and for allowing me to share my views and thoughts with you on this very important topic. As an introduction, I would want to present some shocking statistics to all of you. And the idea is not to sensationalize the topic. The idea definitely is not to, give you some kind of a great big breaking news. But the idea is to put into perspective the need to discuss and to ponder upon this topic. So a few days back, I came across these horrifying statistics in a survey, and the statistics reveal that by the clock in India, a woman becomes a victim of dowry deaths every 1 hour and 13 minutes, gang rape and murder every 1 day and 6 hours, rape every 16 minutes, cruelty by husband or his relatives every 4 minutes, acid attack every 2.3 days, trafficking every 4 hours, and an attempt to rape every 2 hours. The statistics are gory. What is even more gory is some more statistics which say that women victims, a total of 1.48 lakh cases of crime against children were registered in 2019, which was up by 4.5% as compared to 2018. And the breakdown of the statistics is that for rape, we had 4,977 victims, kidnapping to compel the child for marriage, 15,787 victims, selling so many victims more, procuration 3,189 victims. Now, when I quote these figures to you, I do not mean to eclipse that we are talking about the horrifying figures only for one sex, that is, the female sex of the populace. There are equally disturbing figures for the male children as well. And every day, when you get up in the morning and you look at the headlines in any platform, whether it is a digital platform or whether you read it in the print media, your attention is, of course, transfixed by such gory details, which brings us to the thought that somewhere something is not quite right, and somewhere something needs to be done and needs to be done fast. So, which is why I chose to talk about gender sensitivity today. Now, after seeing the statistics, you may have felt that what I'm quoting to you is only related to women and perhaps for the girl child. No, that is not the truth. But why is it that you and I are also conditioned? Just take a minute and ponder that why is it that when we talk or when we use the word victim, what springs to our mind willy-nilly is the image of a woman, of a girl child, of a female. Why is it that the word victim is not instinctively applicable to anyone who is victimized, regardless of their sex? So, the differentiation between sex and gender is very, very important to understand. And again, when I was doing my research on the topic, I came across this wonderful differentiation which says that you are born of a certain sex. You are born with different biological, constitutional, anatomical differences which determine your sex. But it is the nurturing, the conditioning, the behavior that is meted out to you that further crystallizes you into gender related behavior or gender related normative behavior. So, your sex is what you're born with, but your gender attributes get crystallized by your social conditioning, by the kind of influences that you are subjected to or that you experience upon your life as you grow up. So, are we talking here today about gender discrimination and inequality? I mean, this talk at some point of time has to have the thrust that obviously we are enlightening ourselves, we are becoming more sensitive because we do not want that the future generations or that the children that we are nurturing in our schools do not grow up under the horrible influence of gender discrimination, do not face inequality. It's not only about that. It is not only about let us not have gender discrimination. It is not only about let us not have inequality. It is about understanding what causes, what creates the discrimination and inequality in the first place. Why are some people so rigid in their views about roles of different genders? Why is there a stereotype associated with gender roles? And how does that rigidity of stereotype behavior and how does that rigidity of thoughts around gender roles and gender attributes further lead to discrimination, inequality, and even marginalization of certain sections of the society, certain sections in the social strata, so that they do not get the equality of opportunity ever? What we also will understand, and what I also want to bring people to understand, is that where do schools come into the picture? Now, you may as well argue with me and you may tell me that for all the lessons that we teach to the child in the school, the society at large and the home definitely is the biggest influence. And these thoughts or these ideas happen to have a hold on the greater hold on the student or on the child when these ideas, when these practices, or when these belief systems are perpetuated very strongly in the immediate family atmosphere, in the primary support group, and of course in the community or in the social milieu of the child. So the schools, you may well argue, are only a certain segment of the child's entire day, and therefore we really cannot influence. Now here is where I'd like to differ with you, and here is where I want all teachers, all educators to take a strong, deep, and a rather hard look within their own selves and ask themselves the question: am I a gender sensitive person or not? Now, my appeal to every teacher who is a class teacher, who may not be a class teacher, maybe just a subject teacher, but is a very important element of the schooling system, in fact, one of the pillars of the schooling system. My appeal to all of you is when you enter the school premises, take a long, hard look at your school and ask yourself, is my campus a safe and sensitive and an unbiased campus? Does it offer everyone equality of representation and opportunity? And by a safe and a sensitive and a campus which offers equality of opportunity, I'm not only talking about the girl students and the boy students in your schools, I am talking about the management, I am talking about the teaching fraternity, I'm talking about the support staff. It has to reflect, gender sensitivity has to reflect everywhere. A lot of times we talk wonderful things and we do it meaningfully. It's not that we are simply bandying words or mouthing platitudes to sound good or to sound relevant. But what we say is not actually what we are doing. And the little ones, from a very, very tender age of 3 years plus, when they come into the schools, or 2.5 years at times, when they come into the schools, they are observing the differences in what you say and what you do. So, in a school where you say that we have, gender sensitivity, if all the important decision making in the teaching fraternity, if all the important roles, if all the bigger roles or the greater roles in the school's fabric are given to the men, in all the cleaning work, in all the menial tasks, in all the so-called tasks which do not require much thinking or much planning or much organizing, are given to the women, even in the support staff. Think of what kind of an understanding of gender roles your small children, your students in the school system are developing. What is their understanding? Their understanding is that the driver of the bus, the conductor of the bus, the workmen, the physical education male teacher, the PT education, the physical education sir, are the ones who are doing all the important things. And the maids are there for sweeping and swabbing and cleaning and perhaps taking the kids from one place to the other and generally being nice and sweet and polite. But all the action is left to the big, rough and tough men. So the boys think that anyone who is in the seat of power is naturally a man, and that is what I have to grow up to. That is the kind of position I have to take. In the staff room also, if we enter a staff room and if we see that not only is there a differentiation in terms of seniority, and these are senior teachers and these are junior school teachers and these are the kindergarten teachers, so on and so forth, you also have a gender divide in the staff room. So the men are clustered in one area of the staff room, and all the lady teachers are clustered in another area of the staff room. And the child who perhaps goes and knocks on the door and needs some kind of help about something sees this great big divide existing in a space where he ought to be or she ought to be learning that schools or a bigger organization It's all about everyone sharing the work, all about becoming people being in a team and doing tasks. But he sees that all the men are clustered in one side, and all the ladies, all the teachers, the lady teachers are in one side, and the child thinks to himself that okay, even if I come out to work someday, my place is on one side of the room, and the girl's place or the lady's place is on the other side of the room, and this is how the grown-ups are. So well, eventually I would also be growing up in a similar space, and I would perhaps be having my career also in a similar space. And then you want to say to the students that, we're all equal here. I feel something is wrong. We are not all equal. We are equal if the equality is reflected in our day to day lives. We are not equal if we live a different life and we talk a different lifestyle or an ideology. So, at any point of time, when you walk into your school premises, critically evaluate, is this a place where everyone feels equally represented? Do you actually have equal number of lady teachers in physical education also? Do you also have equal number of lady teachers in the chemistry labs, in the physics labs, who are actually working on experiments, doing great things, making models with the students, or all these jobs left again to the male teachers? And is there a balance? And then, whenever there is a meeting, whenever people are talking, whenever people are ideating, whose words hold meaning? Do the words of a person who has got validity of content mean more in terms of decision making? Or do the words of a person, because he sounds to be a responsible person, seems to be having the physical attributes of presence and aura, do his words generate more of a decision making than someone else's? These are points that we have to ponder upon in the school setting. Now, where does a teacher in a classroom scenario come into the picture of gender sensitivity? Like I said, the first acid test is to ask yourself, and a lot of us carry baggages because, after all, we are also individuals who have been nurtured and conditioned in a certain manner throughout our growing years. And we all have our own stories to deal with, we all have our own individual narratives, which at times threaten to overlap our professional work spaces also. And we do come across as people who move more from a preconceived frame of reference rather than being in the moment. So, like I said, the first acid test is to ask yourself and validate yourself on the parameters of being a gender sensitive person before entering the classrooms also, and ask yourself that in my classroom, what kind of an environment do I promote? What kind of an environment do I seek to create? If there be disparities, become sensitive to the inherent disparities of gender divides, and then try to work towards it. Some of the ways in which we can bring about gender sensitivity in classrooms by our day-to-day interaction with the students is, of course, by physically changing the environment of the classroom. Mostly, and a lot of times in classrooms, the seating is divided into, at times, very often we see in schools, that the seating is divided into the girls' rows and the boys' rows. Or it would be the girls sitting, two girls sitting on in the first row, followed by two boys behind them, and then again a girl and a boy. That kind of thing. So this kind of seating arrangements, if we can make it into a flexible seating arrangement where the furniture A is aligned in such a manner to facilitate movement in order to have collaborative learning experiences, where Students can move the furniture, come together as a group, come together as a team to do certain collaborative tasks. When you are making groups into the classroom, please do ensure that there is equal representation, that it is a homogeneous group at all times, that for the same number of boys, you have the equal number of girls in the group. And then please do ensure when the groups are working, please do ensure, when you take rounds, when they're working on a task, listen to the conversations that are happening. Be sensitive to the conversation and be very sensitive to the dynamics of the conversation, and you can really understand the struggle of nurture or nature as it unfolds during these moments, where you will see that students who typically come from gender sensitive environments, or say slightly different environments where there is more porosity in terms of communication between the father and daughter, between the mother and the son, and the elders in the family are more prone to taking opinions and definitely are nurturing confidence. You will see those students or those individuals actually taking cognizance of the group members as group members, and not as the girl sitting next to me or as the boy sitting next to me. Their conversations will be more directed towards the task rather than be heightened or sort of colored by the proximity to the person sitting next to them, and to registering the sex of the person sitting next to them. Whereas students or individuals who do not come from such porous settings will definitely have difficulty in merging themselves. They will find it difficult to come outside the gender divide, and they will typically be the ones who are told to come closer, or why don't you speak? Or they can be at times passive listeners because they do not come from environments where having a voice with a contrarian view is actually heard, is actually listened. So be very sensitive to group dynamics. Having made homogeneous groups, having ascertained that if you are doing collaborative tasks in a classroom scenario, make homogeneous groups, and then be a very, very smart observer for the dynamics that unfold within this group. When addressing a class together, avoid saying boys and girls. It is better at all times to address your group as can group A or group B. If you had divided them into their groups, address them as group, address them as class, good morning class, or good afternoon class, or this class, rather than the boys of this class and the girls of this class. Call them a team, call them a class, give them an collective identity which is not gender specific. Because the moment you start addressing them as the rowdy boys of ninth B, or the quiet girls or the bold girls of NC, you immediately create a divide and ascribe gender specificity to a role. So if it is naughty, if it is troublesome, if it is boisterous, if it is overly energetic, if it is defiant, then it has to be a boy. And if it is argumentative, if it is quiet, if it is introvert, if it is too much given to aesthetics and perhaps creativity, then it is a girl. Let us cease to typify these characteristics as gender based. Let us discuss them or talk about them or comment upon them as individual traits and specifications of behavior exhibited by a set individual, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sex. When you give tasks in a classroom, just look back and think and ponder that if someone has to pick up something heavy, do you call upon the boy? And that if someone has to rub the board and write something very neatly, and if it is a matter of class deputation, do you call upon the girls in your class? If it is a rangoli making competition, if it is a Christmas card making competition, if it is a diya decoration kind of competition, do you naturally gravitate to the girls in your class and call upon them to do this? And if it is the hockey team selections, if it is the quiz team selection, if it is a science making, a model making competition, do you naturally look at the boys in your class and then announce the competition? If you're doing that, then somewhere you have to take a double check. If you are even inadvertently doing that, I would suggest take a feedback from your colleagues and ask them to assess. Or even when you are doing up the anecdotal records for your class, take time off and just see how many students in your class participated in how many competitions this particular academic session. And was there equal boy girl representation across the spectrum of competitions? Or is it that you found that in all the sports and the athletics and the field activities and the model making kind of activities, it was the boys who were going? And if it was the essay writing or the poetry recitation or the rangoli making or the decoration part, then it was naturally the girls who were taking the lead in that. Are you that kind of a teacher or an individual who's consciously or unconsciously fostering this kind of gender identities and role specification in your classroom dealing? Also, when you're talking in the classrooms, I would suggest be as gender neutral as possible. So, Bollywood and Hollywood have actors, and whether it is Pearl S. Buck or it is someone like Anita Desai or it is Ernest Hemingway or it is Robert Ludlum, they are all writers. And we, of course, have chairs and chairpersons instead of chairman and chairwoman and so on and so forth. So being gender neutral says that you're talking more about individual traits and abilities and competencies rather than ascribing roles that are gender specific. Now, all talks of gender discrimination and gender inequality seem to be battles of being equal, and that both the genders have to be placed on an equal footing. But I came across this wonderful article the other day during my readings on the topic, and what I really liked was a statement which said that being fair is more important than being equal. And the beautiful example which the author had given is that if you have a typical group which is made up of equal number of men and women, by all means it is equal. But if the men get to do all the bigger tasks and the more important tasks, and women get to do everything which is simple and easy and not involving too much of either intellectual or physical effort, then it's not fair. And at this juncture, if we are talking about gender sensitivity, it is more important for us to be fair than to be equal. Equal is not representative of having the same kind of opportunities and the dimensions thereof. Equal just ascertains that X number of people of a kind are juxtaposed by Y number of people also of a kind, and that the numerical values are same, but their attributes and the importance of the work they are doing and the task that they are accomplishing is definitely not the same, and therefore it is unfair. So when we are talking about gender equality, let's talk about being fair to the genders rather than only ensuring equality. To the teachers in the kindergarten, it's very important that when you are talking to your students and when a little boy falls down and raises his knee, are you the kind of teacher who wipes his tears and says to him, unconsciously, boys don't cry, brave boys don't cry, are you a girl? What are you sobbing like a ninny for? And when there is a girl who is naughty and boisterous, do you tell her that you actually so much like a boy? You're a tomboy. Why should girls be tomboys? And why should boys be ninnies if they cry? Now, these are statements which we make to the children as they are growing up. So the little boy hastily wipes his tears and says, no, I'm not a girl. And of course, I will not cry. And there onwards, he learns that if he has to be a boy, and later on, if he has to be a man, he should never cry. He should never break down in the face of sorrow. And if it's a girl, then if she has to be smarter than the boys, then she has to be more manly. Then she has to be more boys than the boys. Okay. So if she is shouting and if she is really, really, boisterous, and if she's really a star in the sports field, then well, she's a tomboy. No, she's not a tomboy. She's just a girl who's good at a particular dimension of physical expression, and she's good because she probably has the athletic coordination, and she's boisterous because she's energetic. So, as an individual, she's an energetic individual, and as an individual, that little boy perhaps is feeling hurt and is in pain. So, both of them have equal rights of place in their expression. Do not color it, do not change it. The way you change the color of their t-shirts. So we have evolved to a level where the metrosexual men wear pink and are taking care of their grooming, and are applying fairness creams as well. Not that I endorse it in any way. Color and the war thereof is a different battlefield altogether. But again, when we are talking about genders, we typecast colors also. It's like girls wear pink and boys wear blue. Girls have ribbons and boys have laces on their shoe. So again, this typecast, this gives rise to stereotypes, and we have to ensure that choice and the decision to exercise it has got nothing to do with the sex that you were born with. So if I look good in pink, or rather if I want to look good in pink because I feel pink becomes me, it really does not matter that I am a girl or a boy. Allow me to exercise my choice at that early age without the fear of being typecast into a gender based role because I choose to put my hand upon a certain color. So, statements in the kindergartens and in the growing up years, such as, wow, you're wearing pink. Are you a girl? Does your mommy want a girl? That's why she buys you pink. Oh, you have a doll also. Do boys play with dolls? And to the girls that you like wearing shorts, is it? And so, why don't you dress up like a pretty girl? Today is an occasion where you should actually be wearing a nice frilly frock. Don't do this. Don't do this. Ask the child rather what does he want or she want and what is he or she feeling comfortable with. Our jobs as educationists is to create a confident, a well-adjusted, and well-adjusted citizen of the world. And the world that we live in now is a world which recognizes the rainbow, a world which allows and fights for every individual right to their own place and space in the social milieu. When our students go out of our campus, when an 8-year-old in your classroom today is studying with you, he will perhaps go after so many years and become a professional in a workplace where he will be working with people across the divisions of the globe. And at that point of time, it would not be really important for him whether he has been nurtured in a specific way because he will be a misfit if he is not taught to be a well adjusted, globally well adjusted individual. Therefore, we have to make our students, we have to make our children understand that you have to make space for differences. Everyone cannot be alike. And those who are like you, they are the only ones who are right, is passe. You have to come out of your comfort zone and understand everyone and make allowances for everyone. If you do not do that, then you will end up being a social misfit. Because in today's times, when the primary family structures are getting redefined. When we have single parent families, when we have blended families, then the roles are getting redefined every day. In today's times, you cannot be so absolutely narrow in your thinking or in your base of experience or in your behavior that you do not understand the differences of conditioning and nurturing, and even the right to being of someone else. It's very important, therefore, to understand that some of us are born in a certain manner. Some of us choose to be in a certain manner, but all of us have the right to be happy and healthy together and share spaces. We have to understand as educators that in today's times, we have made space in our forms, in our school forms, and in a lot of important forms and papers that we sign for the other gender as well. So, if we have to acknowledge them, we are not doing them a charity. We are also allowing them the right of their own space. So, it is male and female and otherwise, or any other. And it is perfectly okay to be different. And it is perfectly fine if you do not conform to the typicalities that have been ascribed to you, rather enforced upon you for years on years. It is time for all of us to nurture this generation and the generations hereafter in an extremely porous environment which acknowledges and which gives space to every individual and allows them to define their own trajectory of growth and to grow alongside of it. We need not be sitting in judgment of others. And if we are talking about a safe and a sensitive environment at school or in our social milieus, then this is where we have to start, all of us. Otherwise, year after year, we will also be sitting and getting horrified with the statistics that we read so often every day. And we will also be wondering, what did we do wrong? Where did we go wrong? And is it really the kind of world which we want our children to grow up into? So these are my thoughts on nurturing, fostering gender sensitivity in schools. Thank you so much. I would like to take any questions if there are.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was very beautifully explained the divide that we have in our schools and in our society today, and how we can foster the gender sensitivity. I think whatever questions I was having, right next moment, you were explaining it beautifully. So I've got all my questions answered. But I do have a question here that you talked about students and classrooms where the teachers can go and address them as a class or as her or his students. But what about, or how can we foster gender sensitivity in students who are into either boys' school or girls' school? Because they're not getting this co-ed environment, right? What can a teacher do? Maybe one example, if you can give, what can a teacher do, or what can the school as a whole do to foster this gender sensitivity?
See, any sectorial kind of nurturing comes with its own baggage of learning and unlearning. So there are traditional schooling systems where it is an all girls and an all boys patterns, and we have seen that once these students come out into the world and once they become professionals, they do have certain issues. What they can be doing is to open a window of opportunities, in the sense, if they can be encouraging their students to participate in activities and take part in competitions where they will get a chance to mingle, and the more collaborative these activities are, the better it is for these students to get into say an environment which is porous, where they can get to meet with the individuals of the opposite sex and learn graded, exposure, so to say, towards this, and eventually they do strike a comfort zone. Now, I will not say that all boys schools, though the Doon school is now saying that they will be going into co-education also. Some days back, that was also a talk which was shared. So, there are changes happening everywhere because people do understand that eventually in workspaces you have to evolve the best fit, and it has to be a synergy. You cannot and no man is an island, so to say. So collaboration and participation as much as possible into competitions and forums where the students get an opportunity to interact and develop themselves and develop the confidence also. That is one way in which it can be done.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think all the educators, all the the family from the school fraternity who are watching this will be benefited, and they will apply what you have just told. Well, with this, we come to an end to today's session. I once again thank ma'am for joining in and being a part of Getty's disruptive education movement. We'll meet again soon with another informative session. Until then, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Shivani, and I once again want to thank the people at Getty for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much. All the best, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you, ma'am.